can we more effectively show that covering up sexual crimes is not a way to advance careers?
I think the fact that for women in the military, there are still significant barriers to career progression, and that there are not enough women throughout the services at top levels, that there aren't enough flag officers who are women. All of this is related ultimately. We need a sea change.
And joining me now is New Hampshire Senator Jeanne Shaheen, a member of the Armed Services Subcommittee and a leading voice for protecting service members from assault. Senator, thank you very much. You heard all this testimony. It was heartbreaking for those of us watching. Do you think that there is a way to shake up the Pentagon and change the whole culture?
I do, and as you say, it really was very compelling testimony, and not just from the women on the panel, but also from the man, Mr. Lewis, who said he was the first man to testify on sexual assault in the military, and reminded us all that this is not a crime that happens just to women in the military. It also happens to men, and it is a crime. I thought one of the most important points they made was that rape and sexual assault are crimes. They're not about sex, they're about power, they're about intimidation, and we have to treat them that way. And I think we're seeing a great deal of interest in Congress in working with the military to address this issue. I think there were a number of people who pointed out that it requires a real culture change in the military, and I know that the leadership, in most cases, the generals, Secretary Hagel, are very interested in addressing this, but it's going to require not just the leadership to take action, but to look at some of the structural impediments to making the cultural changes that are required and changing those as well.
Well, as you pointed out, and I know you've written to Secretary Hagel and you've wanted him to take a look at this Air Force general who just overrode a unanimous verdict from a jury in a rape case. And the fact that the Air Force has different rules than the other services, much more lenient rules, I don't know how you'd even characterize them, that you can just override a unanimous verdict without even giving an explanation. So you want an answer on that. But, just when you speak to the culture, in 2011, as you well know, there were like 3,191 sexual assaults reported throughout all of the military. And the estimate, the conservative estimate, is that that number is really, the number of assaults was really closer to 19,000. So how do you make the military safe enough so that people feel that they can report an assault?
Well, one of the recommendations from this morning's panel was independent prosecutors. So looking at the kinds of things that work on the civilian side and see how we can do some of that on the military side. Allowing victims of sexual assault and rape who are not able to get satisfaction and justice through the military to have access to a civilian process that allows them to get some justice. And then, one of the things that really struck me was the statistic that 1 out of 3 convicted sexual offenders remains in the military. So they're not drummed out. Now, if you're a sexual offender in the civilian side, you've committed a crime, and most likely you're going to lose your job, or you're going to have a sentence in some way that's going to have a negative impact on you. And we've got to look at offenders in the military and treat them the same way.
Is that the kind of recommendation that can come out of this committee? I don't know what the power is of the Senate Armed Services Committee when it comes to the Pentagon. Are they a world unto themselves when it comes to their rules and regulations? And the Criminal Code of Justice.
That's right. The Criminal Code of Justice has not been looked at in a while, and I think there needs to be some real study into whether it is, under the current way that it's written, able to adequately address the crimes of sexual assault and rape, and whether there should be a convening authority who, I understand from the military's perspective and from the disciplinary side, they want to have somebody who's the ultimate authority in charge. But that may not work And clearly, I think there are instances like the one we just learned about from Aviano, Italy, where it doesn't seem to work. I was encouraged that Secretary Hagel said he thought that was something we should look at with respect to the military code. So I do think this may be an opportunity for us to go back and look at whether it's working in the way it really needs to in order to address this crime.
Well, something tells me that you and Senators McCaskill and Gillibrand and your colleagues are not going to let this go. Thank you very much, Senator Shaheen.
Thank you.
And the power of the Pope. What are American Catholics looking for?